I want to talk about the plagues. We're going to talk more about the Ten Commandments in the next segment too with our next guest. But the plagues, obviously a super fascinating aspect of the story here. How do you prove, first, that they actually happened? Obviously, Egyptian history does not record these things happening. What's your evidence for them?
My evidence is macro, not micro. How can I prove that frogs engulfed Egypt? I mean, it's impossible, obviously. There are things that I take on faith. Nevertheless, my road to faith is entirely through reason. That's why I call my explanation, my commentary, the rational Bible. I only use reason. So, by the way, reason and proof are not the same thing. I can't prove that some medieval king existed, but reason leads me to believe it. I believe that what is written in the Torah, the first 5 books, happened because the credibility of those 5 books in general is so awesome. And I will tell you one thing that you will not expect to hear that I think is very persuasive, certainly is for me. The Hebrew Bible is constantly critical of the Hebrews. Mm-hmm. That gives it tremendous legitimacy. No group of people make up self-criticism. It just never happened. And here you have a constant critique of the people from whom this Bible came. So I find that and the vast amount of other things that are true, the ancient historicity, things that nobody later could have known and which we have now verified. But whether or not you personally, but one who reads this believes that the 10 plagues took place literally is of no great consequence to me. What I want people to understand is the message that they gave. The God of the Hebrews, which is the God of the world, smote, if you will, to use a biblical term, the gods of Egypt. All of the plagues were against the gods of Egypt, beginning with the Nile and blood. They worshiped the Nile. You worship the Nile? Guess what? I will turn the Nile into blood. This is the powerful message. The powerful message is how much coercion it took to persuade Pharaoh to let the Hebrews go, the Israelites go. I mean, the whole story is filled with lessons.
Well, maybe we don't have to go through all of the plagues, 10. But what were some of the other ones? Like what other attacks on the gods were like the frogs?
Well, so the next is blood, then frogs. Animals were worshipped in Egypt, and various of the worshipped animals were affected by the plagues. Darkness, the penultimate plague, is against the chief god of Egypt, Ra, the sun. So look, the God of the universe can block out the sun. The great message of the Torah is that God controls nature. God is not in nature. We today worship nature. The Judeo-Christian individuals worship God, not nature. Nature is the handiwork of God. I put up the sun and I put up the moon just in order to give you some light. They are my servants. They are not gods. I extinguish the light of the sun, Egypt, because the sun is not a god.
Of the plagues, I think it was the first. This always bothered me a little bit. I'm really curious your take. That the magicians were able to do the same with the first, like the blood, I think the frogs and the gnats. Or maybe it was the gnats that got them. I think it was the gnats when they were like, can't do that. So like why were they able to do even the first few, and then why were they unable to do the next?
Well, that also gives the text credibility. The fact that these powers whatever they might have been, were attributable to the magicians of Pharaoh, is a fascinating little tidbit. I find that credibility giving. But here's my take. It's actually, I think, one of the most hilarious moments in the 5 books of Moses in the Torah. So the waters of Egypt turn into blood, and then there is some water that was still preserved as water, and the magicians come to Pharaoh and say, "Hey, look, we can ruin the water too." You would think the magicians, if they had any intelligence, would say, "Hey, wait a minute, we can turn it back into water." Instead, these idiots turn the only remaining water into blood. It's truly a laughing moment at the expense of Pharaoh's magicians. That's the message as far as I'm concerned.
Great point. Why was Pharaoh, to go back a bit, why was Pharaoh concerned about the Jews in his land at all? Why treat them as slaves, and why be so worried about them?
Well, the reason he gives is that they're getting very numerous, and then they will overtake us. Of course, it's very hard to believe that they were as numerous to the extent that they could overtake the Egyptians. And if they were that numerous, how could they enslave them? So it's sort of a harbinger of future anti-Semitism. Oh, the Jews are controlling everything. It's Jews were 1% of Germany, and Hitler said it's either the Jews or us who will survive. I mean, it's a recurring theme in Jewish history.
Hey, if you enjoyed that, we have much more when you download the First TV app. We got plagues, the commandments, everything in the book of Exodus. We go over it and talk about how it's relevant today. Download the First TV app on your smartphone, and you can watch it right there for supporters.